very professional. All right. Thank you for being here to this panel discussion, Technology and the Planet, Navigating the Balance Between Innovation and Sustainability. So this panel discussion is really going to be dealing with the topics we've already covered this morning, and therefore we have around the table the experts that have had keynotes, and I'll introduce the one person who hasn't. So in an era where technology is both a driver of progress and a potential threat to our environment, this panel will explore the dual-edged nature of technological innovation. So experts from various fields will discuss how technology can be harnessed to mitigate climate change while addressing unintended consequences that may also arise from this intervention. Key topics will include the role of emerging technologies in shaping our planet's future, strategies for integrating sustainability into tech development, and ethical considerations in technological advancements. What I would like to do first and foremost is to present the one panel discussion, this panelist who we did not have a chance to meet this morning. Bruna Albuquerque, sorry if I mispronounced your name, is a specialist lawyer in environmental law from the Federal University of Rio Grande do Sul, and a master's student in environmental management from IFPE. She's an environmental expert, an ISO 1401 internal auditor, a sustainability consultant, triple positive impact and ESG specialist, and a researcher and activist for environmental and common rights. Also a fan and expert of permaculture and nature branded solutions. So thank you very much for being here, Bruna. What I will do is actually start off this panel discussion with a question for each of our panelists, and I will ask you to introduce yourself very briefly and explain to us how you became engaged in sustainability in your work.
Hey everyone. Well, I am Mariana Amazonas. I work with circular economy, as we told before. And it's really hard to say how I become engaged and touched by this area. I use it to work with marketing, planning, big companies, like producing a lot, millions and thousands of goods, and I use it to work for it. I use it to try to, create the best campaign in order to convince you to buy more. And I have the lucky to start in a company called Natura from Recife, and they are trying to do a little bit different. They are trying to do it in a way that balance environmental issues, social issues, combining with the business and market demands. So when I started there and I started to broaden my view, broaden the way that I think that we can do business and do good at the same time. So I started to study, and then I'm here now.
I was just helping you with the mic. But it's okay. Since I was a teenager, the garbage situation always caused me, I think, a sadness about the garbage and how we treat our stuffs. And first of all, I was a little bit annoyed by it, and with this kind of behavior, like the humans are doing that. And suddenly I realized that one of that garbage sacks, garbage bags was from my house, and I was part of that. And when I was in law school, as soon as I realized the market of law business, I I didn't want anymore, and I thought that I don't want to do that. I don't want to be a lawyer. I don't want to be near to rich people, son of somebody, and I don't want that anymore. And I was in the last year of my law school, and at that point, I thought I will work for something that I believe, to resist, to I don't know, to be able to finish my school, to my law graduation. And I'm here now, and it was very difficult to reach to work and to earn money and fight against fight for environmental rights. And now I am here. I have social business, social impact business, environmental and social impact business called Environmental Manifesto, and am a consultant. And my kind of business, we uh, develop ways to work for the common rights, for the environmental rights as a contribution to society.
Great. Thank you very much. Dr. Lisandro Ponciano. Sorry.
Thank you. I started working on sustainability during my master students study. During my master study, I studied a little about green computing. We had a very big computer infrastructure, and we studied how to save energy in that infrastructure. So I studied that for 2 years in 2010 and 2011. And after that, my PhD studies was on other subjects. And in 2012, we had a very big flood in Belo Horizonte, and I was observing what was happening. We know where in Belo Horizonte we usually flood when we have heavy rain, but in that specific year, many parts of the city that no one knows that it's possible to be flooded, to have a lot of water, and it was happening. So I start to search and try to identify on social media how the climate authorities was informing the population, and the only thing I saw was people sharing, oh, see what happened in my street. And after that, I start to study how the climate authority can have a better position, inform the population via social media during these periods.
Okay, great. Thank you very much. Dr. Raimunda Macedo.
Okay, thank you. I was thinking how to say that. How did I get involved? But I can say that that was before thinking about computing. I was already, I had a master's degree at the time, but I was an activist for a group um, which was involved in fighting against the pollution and the destruction of the ecosystems of Bahia de Todos Santos, All Santos Bay in the state of Bahia, and also the destruction of old buildings, very cultural buildings, to give place to big constructions, pollution affecting communities all over the Bahia de Todos Santos. So we had this kind of activity. At that time, I helped a little bit with an information system for organize some of our practices in this group. And then um, as afterwards, in the beginning of this century, I was something called my attention was the amount of computers, personal computers, on the corridors of the university. If in the way they work, the place I worked, I think the business model of manufacturing computers changed a little bit from the big computers and then to small computers, mobile devices, and then this started to be lots of volume of waste, digital waste that people don't know what to do. And then I was involved with that more than as an activist, because we ended up influencing our institution to build some policies for recycling those computers. So also for adopting free software, to utilizing. So this was something, and then uh, as an institution administrative
Mhm.
person,
Administrator, yes.
I really did some very, very strange thing because I was fighting to have Wi-Fi free zones in the campus. I don't know if people are connecting, want to connect. No, no, we need some Wi-Fi free zones. And also for the classrooms, people want to put Wi-Fi everywhere. And I said, we need the optical fibers because it's causes less warming to the,
Mm.
to the environment. It's safer,
Mm.
and then and it's safer for the students' health. Electromagnetic pollution is a very strong problem as well. I didn't say anything about that, but now you have 5G and 6G, everything. Yes, so the areas are uh, more powerful and shorter in distance. So it is another thing that we have to think about as well. And then as a computer society president, I brought this issue for the discussion inside. So
Mm.
nowadays I have work on designing software and hardware for minimizing the utilization of energy for transmitting message. So I have 3 PhD students, one working with these kind of things, another one now working with smart farms for small farms
Mhm.
to try to help the production of the small farmers, and also for commercializing products, and then also for environmental monitoring. We have another book on that. So different. My main background is algorithms.
Mm.
So anyway, I was trying to do my best
Mm.
to do something.
Okay. Great. Thank you very much. If there's questions out in the audience, by all means, raise your hands. No, I should probably be looking at the Discord at the same time. I'm going to start the ball rolling. Since you mentioned you actually are working with PhD students on these topics, I'd like for all of the panelists to talk about how do you sensitize your students, your clients, if you're not teaching, to these kinds of issues. And so you were talking about, for example, having clients that are in kind of like from the diagram that you were showing earlier, kind of like the old school companies who are on traditional capitalist production criteria, who just want to build more, and the more that they sell, the better off they're going to be. How are you able to talk to your clients? So do you want to get the ball rolling?
Thank you. Well, first of all, I think that the majority of people are really wanting to have a solution, really wanting to get to a more sustainable boat, and they are not resisting that. They are open to that. They are talking more about that, and they are being inspired by any initiative that's real, that it's transparent, that's you are really, saying true things. So I really don't think that people are resisting that. So it's a very nice opportunity to start something around this idea. But uh, we built a society very not only uneducated, but they are not implying themselves like an adult. They are a little bit, we are a little bit acting like a child, waiting for someone to solve our problems, or not implicating ourselves as part of the solution. So it's really hard to become an adult. It hurts, and also implicates you to recognize that why we did that way, why we just gave to someone our freedom, why we gave to someone the possibility of choose to us, why we are thinking that we are not able, that this is something that someone else will change, not me, because it's too big, it's the system. When we did that and why we did that, because some people try to explain that, and it's a kind of trade that we do, because if we are not responsible for that, we can sleep very well without being worried about that, and we also can exercise this kind of power with other people, because everyone somehow are gaining something with this kind of systemic dependence or sensation of not being completely responsible to our acts. And we have to do therapy and, and maybe rethink the autonomy that we are choosing to our lives. We have to be less lazy, mailing us that are quite educated. And this is something really big. Once you start to try to do better, try to find better options, try to do something, anything. We need someone, we need everyone to start. Whatever you are, we need to start. We need to take responsibility for our lives and for our society, for our country and everything. Yes, I know that we just one person can change everything, but is the right place to start.
Bruna, would you like to pick up on that one? Or?
It's a good and it's a difficult question on our day by day situations. Sometimes some of my clients, they want to, I don't know, implement like a waste management, and they ask me what I will earn with that. You will earn nothing. It's your responsibility.
Mm.
And if you ask someone about sustainability, this person will probably say that this is very important. And however, when we talk about corporate sustainability, what we see and what we have is not enough. We have the common resources, we have the right of a clean water, of a clean air, and where do we consent to the companies take all of our life resource like water, air, and soil and life to make money and to profit the shareholder? And I think we have to start I work with voluntary sustainability, and it's very hard to convince them. But I think, as we see in Europe, we have to have policies, laws, and we have to apply a responsibility that the common people already have to pay the bills and to, because mostly in Brazil, we are too busy surviving to fight against anything. And in most of the cases, we cannot speak aloud that that company is doing greenwashing. And I think we have to parameterize. There's this word in
Prioritize,
English,
yeah.
yes, and to regulate and to put
Set
that voluntary issue about sustainability as an obligation for having a commercial or profitable activity.
Okay, great.
Just to say that I was shocked with one information when I was researching to come here, that there is more cell phones than there is more access to cell phones than to toilets around the world. Like, did you understand that it's easier to have a cell phone than to go to have a proper toilet?
Yeah, and that's one of the things that was interesting in the research in Benin, was that Even if people live without electricity, they still have phones. So it's like people can be living in very precarious situations, but the telephone has become so important as a tool that they will find a way of having one. If it's a plug that gets recharged in a community plug. So even in really very disenfranchised populations, that the tool has become kind of like an absolute necessity. So it's quite problematic. But perhaps we can see from the educational sector, how do you convince your students that this is an issue that needs to be addressed? And I can start, Leandro.
Yeah, I had very good conversations with my students. I love that the young people are very conscious about what's happened, and they are very concerned. So I need to control myself to not being pessimistic, but being realistic about the problem. But they are, because they are very concerned about what's happening, what will gonna happen in the coming years, and I try to help them to understand what they can do. So, for example, this semester at my university, I teach one course called Research Informatics. And I told my students, oh, your work this semester is I divide, I split the class, my students in 14 groups, each group with one SDG, Sustainable Development Goals. Each group got one of them, and you will study the literature, the scientific literature on how computer science is helping to achieve each of these 17 Sustainable Development Goals. And at the end, you will produce science popularization, science spread, science outreach podcast. Each group will publish in one podcast, inform the population how computer science is contributing to achieve the sustainable development goal. And they did. It is on YouTube. I love that. It's the very good work. And so it's a way I'm trying to help them. Oh, it's a problem, but there's someone trying to do something, and this is a way perhaps we can also contribute doing some research, try to achieve some of these sustainable development goals. Thank you.
Raimundo, would you like to add?
It's well, I try to put these keywords
Yeah.
and with my students, even if the classes are about operating systems, for instance, or fault tolerance that I teach, or dispute systems. So I try to motivate them to pay attention to those issues. But with my in the lab, the coordinator research lab, then we have sessions of discussions about sustainability. At least to try to understand, we don't have measure of the production chain footprint of everything. We should have it. I think we should in society have to develop these kind of indicators. When you buy a cell phone, you need to know the footprint of the production chain of carbon emissions of this kind of device. You help people to make decisions, and I think computing can help.
Are you working on measuring the footprints of our products?
No, not myself, but I use databases. I use information that are available. There are lots of information available. We can use that to make decisions. But anyway, I think your question is in the education side. I think it's like he said. Discuss the issue. Must I just mentioned Paulo Freire again. Problematization of the situations. Now try to understand how you get this phone. What's the materials? Who built it? Who designed it? Who worked for it? Who get the money from out of it? So all of it, all this kind of information, you need to understand and to see the whole process. I don't think we're gonna change anything without changing the whole way the society is organized. I don't think.
and also think about how this thing is going to be taken apart, how it's what happens at the end in terms of recycling and
Yes, sure, for sure.
which is something that is less sexy, but part of the problems can be also about understanding that when we are making some of these components, part of the difficulty is like taking them apart afterwards. So you were talking about, the loss of materials. Sometimes they've been combined and they cannot be uncombined.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's a tricky knot for engineers, like
Yeah.
and computer scientists.
Just to exchange the
Okay. So we'll share we'll pass the magic baton. I'll take this opportunity to ask if anybody in the audience has a question. Do not be shy. I do have a whole series that I can continue going on. Oh, yes, there is one. Okay. So my role is to run.
Hello. Thank you for the presentation. I would like to ask you about the footprints that you were talking about. I didn't see how the way that you told that has the database and how we could use on the daily basis, like to choose the cell phone, for example.
Hello.
It's working? Oh, yes.
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, what I mean by footprint, is what's the carbon emissions? What I call carbon emissions is any gases, not only CO2, but all gases that contribute for the greenhouse effect. So it's how to understand in the whole process what's the contribution for that. So people, I think companies now are pushed to make it transparent. Like this is the footprint of my, and all of us somehow should look to try to be net zero in our own contribution in the way. So you can capture carbon as well by planting trees and doing other things as well. So the point is how you don't. It's very hard for me. I don't know this footprint of these Samsung cells, no LG cell phone, but I mean there are information available in the web. You can go for that, and then also you can try to make a reasonable decision to get to know the process. For instance, which companies are greener than other companies? So we must know the profile of companies, how they are producing things. Are they looking after the environment? And then we make the proper choices about that. I think that is a good start pointing for us as a consumer.
So basically new KPIs to measure the performance and ethical considerations of companies could be an interesting.
This type of evaluation are called as life cycle assessment. And when you work with management of impacts, you study the product since the extraction of the resources, and they pass through the manufacturing and the transportation, and you can achieve a footprint of the product or a carbon emission. And all of that is to have the information, but at this time we do not have like a sustainable cell phone. You will not find. And I think we need to talk about the democratic use of common resources. If I want to have a phone and I don't have a bathroom, something is wrong.
Hello, I want to congratulate from the presentation and ask about where we can find trustable data about this situation, because the existence of the greenwashing, and a lot of enterprises are trying to fake like they're doing something great for the planet, something sustainable, but they're not. They're like still doing bad things. And where we can find some data to think about and trustable that are really doing something about it.
Well, that's my research topic, and why indicators and data matters to sustainability, because I can't say to you that I am a full sustainability person or company. Look at my product, and if I don't have the indicators, if I am not monitoring that, the experience of stock market about ESG indicators are the principal instruments for greenwashing prevention, and the European legislation, they even pick up the website information and they match with your reporting of sustainability, and they can match each other if you are reporting something that you are not being able to show through indicators and to a deep report. And this is greenwashing, when you are able to talk but not able to show your practice.
And part of the problems with some of those metrics that are used can actually turn into weird side effects. So, for example, there's quite a bit of study on what happens with IKEA in regarding its use of wood for the furniture, and that essentially they are buying old growth forests as a kind of a measure that potentially impacts the local populations that no longer have access to what was once public land. And what we were talking about this morning with Microsoft purchasing, so in order to be green and have good KPIs, they are buying nuclear energy, they're installing more nuclear power plants in order to continue fueling this kind of endless growth of data consumption. So it is something that is kind of like a wicked problem, in terms that even if we have access to the data, it still is contextual. Ultimately, it can be to a certain extent something that has really unintended consequences.
Yeah, imagine that you have to declare your earnings to the government, and why the companies are not declaring the use of water, energy, and
Road usage.
our common resources. If there's no water, you are going to miss it, right? So mostly in Brazil, we have a lot of companies extracting a lot wood, water, and we are still in a situation that we are not in the degree of um, demanding another position from the companies.
Anybody else want to add?
Yeah, and you have to train your brain to always check. Like, sustainability is not something shallow that you start to do today and it will be all right. It's something that you have to build inside process. You have to work with the whole supply chains. So if you are buying something from China, it's probably very improbable that you can really control it. That it's not because I'm against China. It's not about that. It's just if it's too far away from you, if you can't see, you really can't say that it's sustainable or that it's being in a way that you can say that it's social responsible. So buy local, try to not only look to a company once, see if they are doing deep and continuous work. Like, it's not something that you're gonna find, oh, that's good company started now and it's amazing. No. And we have a lot of flaws, like I mean, for example, for Roda, we are definitely not perfect. We try hard, but definitely a lot of times we can improve. We always can improve. There is something also to keep in mind. Sustainability is something that you always can improve. There is no final line. You always can do better. Net zero, it's almost a cartoon thing to believe that. And I don't know if the carbon credit is going to work in Brazil, but it's also can be tricky. It's also can be something that led you to a misunderstanding, or to a place that don't really solve a problem. So wake up and start to look at it like we started to look to the healthy things that are on their products, and you know.
One of the questions I was asked in the Discord from another session was, what's the impact for designers and UX designers in particular, regarding how AI is kind of coming into being, and part of it is really also thinking about how our practice has to become much more interdisciplinary, because to a certain extent we see that design practices are going into engineering, it's going into law, it's going into medicine, but the same way designers can actually go into those fields as well and start thinking about how work is impacting in those particular areas. And so it brings up this question of innovation. How can innovation go hand in hand with climate change mitigation? Because essentially we're in a capitalist system, and perhaps we also need to be going into politics and going into making policy briefs and going and trying to actually change the system from a legal standpoint and from a jurisdiction standpoint. So I'd like to start the question with Raimundo. How can innovation go hand in hand with climate change mitigation, especially in countries in the global south that are disproportionately impacted by climate change? Got right in front of you.
Well, there are two dimensions. One is how innovation can help with the mitigation, in avoiding. So you can apply it for transportation, for agriculture, for energy production. Try to minimize the waste of energy in all those systems. So you have sensors to do that. You can build systems will help the management of those and the design of those things. So this is one thing. Another thing is how your innovation is going to contribute for the gas emissions. So this is the most difficult part. But I think we have to have this kind of mentality. It's very difficult. First of all, do you need an innovation? Because do you need that? So, because usually, most of the time, the innovation comes with the need to sell more things. So, and then, because when you say innovations, that is something that is in the market, isn't it? So it's just to sell it. So I think somehow the society must be more aware of the implications of the amount of innovations they have. You mentioned that in your presentation, and build it carefully to avoid to amplify the emissions of greenhouse gases.
But what's interesting, what you're talking about is those applications are very down to earth. It's not, because I frequently hear this kind of magical thinking about AI, that's it's going to somehow like discover something that's going to allow us to mitigate this. AI doesn't know anything that we don't already know. Basically, it's just
I think
off of the past.
These are buzzwords. I mean AI, but of course AI can do very nice, clever things, but it's coding, it's program. So one of the things that's going on in the world now is green coding, how to code to minimize the consumption of energy. So for AI data centers, we are talking about that in the coffee break. We need to share those big institutions or data centers. We have to collaborate internationally to avoid to replicate all those big models. So instead of having many of them, let's have a couple of them, and then make people to have access. So, and put those renewable energies for feeding those big data centers. So I think it's a collaborative and global issue that people must be conscious about, and using the proper instruments to come out with a better solution for that.
And it would be actually interesting to see actors in the global south creating a collaborative effort to offset essentially what's being developed exclusively by GAFAMs at this point. So
There are some initiatives going on,
Mm.
yeah, but yeah, some sort of federated like cloud system that people can share. There are some things
Mhm.
in the global south, but I think it's a really a planetary issue.
Mm.
You know, I mean, it's not global south only because you need because you know if you measure the contribution of gas emissions, the global south contribute much less
Mm.
than the north of the planet. So it's really a collaboration between the whole planet to understand that we because we the much you have, the more you have, the more you want. You know, like it's easier to run. I use generative AI. I I also tell to my students use it carefully, but we cannot not avoid these evolutions in technology. We must think how to design them, how to use them to avoid the destruction of our planet. It's not only about computing technology.
Mm.
It's about communities not being properly living. It's about chemicals destroying, water pollution, all things. So things are really interconnected. We're not going to solve the computing technology problem isolated from the other. I think. I'm sorry if I spoke too much about this, but this is. I mean, we must understand the way we live in the planet. What are our values? What motivates us as a society? So this is the first question. You are talking about challenging assumptions. I agree with that. Let's challenge our assumptions.
Mm.
Because we start buying things, start doing things without thinking about consequences. And then even why? Why you buy a new app? For instance. Why to put chat GPT everywhere? Everything is going to be a robot now. So you have to think about human beings, how these are affecting people's life, and some people don't have even a choice.
Mm.
Sometimes they don't have even food to eat,
Mm.
place to live. You understand? Everything is connected. I think it's a question of thinking the way we are in this planet. I think first of all,
Lissandra, would you like to add to that?
Just a little sentence is that my view about this point is that perhaps we should change and stop using marketing to make people design something that they don't need. So we create products that people don't need, and make them design these products. It's true for marketing in general, but it's also true for computer science. People are spend a lot of energy trying to build big system of, for example, metaverse. So think metaverse. Do I need metaverse? I'm not needing metaverse right now. I'm needing other things. I think we have another problems to solve. So, but when you create something so beautiful like metaverse, you make people desire metaverse. So you need to sell a lot of products to support you to live in this environment. So you create a need and you associate with the need. You sell a lot of products and we have increase the problem. So I think we also, designers of technology, we need to stop to create new needs, solve that are real people needs. I think that's a good start point.
It sounds like we might actually have to start tackling capitalism from the get-go, because the growth model is one of the things that really goes against this idea of frugality in our regards to the environment, and part of it is also about how powerful can the commons become in terms of rights, in terms of defending individuals. Is there any questions in the audience? Yes.
Hi, thank you all. Just around, I suppose, kind of the headline of the panel around innovation and sustainability. I guess with all new technologies, there's opportunities for enterprises, companies, and entrepreneurs. But I feel like so many decisions now about integrating technologies are sort of fear-based. There's sort of this fear of getting left behind. So we're seeing rather strange implementations of machine learning, I think, in companies now that don't really fit, but there's sort of this pressure, right, to I have to use this technology because everyone's using it and it's the new thing. So I guess my question is around that, like how can we help or how can we discuss this with industry regarding, you know, balancing this fear of kind of being left behind or not kind of innovating alongside, you know, your peers and your colleagues and your competitors, but then also sort of having these values of sustainability.
Thank you.
So I co-direct 2 PhDs that look at how AI is essentially going into companies and how it's being conceived, how they're developing it, who's around the table once again. And I'm looking at it both from the very low end where they're making dashboards that have predictive models for grocery store managers to essentially autopilot in military helicopters. So rather a strange polarity between the two. And one of the things we found was, now I have to remember that this thing is being filmed and distributed, but one of the things we found was that the way that companies who are not AI savvy feel this obligation to jump on board, and they do it in the most awkward way possible. It's like a trip back to the 1950s in terms of software development. They do it zero UX. They don't put in the resources that are necessary to actually analyze the problems that they're going to need to do. They don't have the money to pay for top-end developers, and so they go and hire a bunch of interns from computer science programs to come and do the work. And so basically, we followed 3 different kind of low-end AI implementations in different workflows in various companies. And essentially, all 3 pretty much failed. There was one that was considered really successful. And what was successful was not the predictive part, it was the automation of the data gathering that was actually the most appreciated by the workers. So it wasn't the actual AI portion that was valued, it was this streamlined workflow for gathering all of the pertinent data in one place, which saved 2 days of work. But we don't actually talk about this kind of awkward, kind of ugly growth of AI that kind of barely gets out of the drawer. I can tech support systems that were, so they started making chatbots, but instead of actually looking at what workers had been answering most frequently, they just followed, they focused on the tools. This is an engineering kind of obsession with focusing on tools and workflows rather than what humans need when they interact with these systems. So they developed a chatbot that was completely empty. And when the tech support saw this chatbot that was filled with kind of gibberish, they basically saw their work process pretty much double, because not only did they still have to continue answering everyone, they had to go and train and essentially input all of this information that could have been extracted. So for me, there's a real awkwardness with the way that AI is going in, and we don't talk about that kind of ugly adolescence. So we probably should a lot more.
I wanted to ask to Frederick about you. In your presentation, you told about how much energy the AI can consume, and how can we use the renewable energy to try to attend the demanding energy consumption of the AIs in how it works, how we can apply that.
Renewables aren't going to be enough. I mean, right now we don't have enough materials to capture that energy, because the renewables just happen to get into our electrical systems like by magic. It actually takes materials that are constructed to be able to, the amount of materials needed to actually become to use as sustainable sources is a huge amount of materials as well. So what we find, and then this is one of the kind of like the people who study energy policy, kind of like the ugly secret, is that every energy source that we have is basically an addition. Like we're still using every bit as much oil, if not more than we are. The nuclear energy is simply more energy. Wind and renewables is simply more energy. And so what we're finding is the few things that we were able to take offline and that were the most polluting, notably the coal power stations, are coming back online in places like Tennessee where they have coal. So, I mean, there's, once again, I would say it's magical thinking to think that we're going to be doing pure renewables for the kind of energy consumption that we're seeing in the models. So the question I would say is that the right paradigm that we should be having for developing our technology? Should we be looking at getting just as good of a performance with smaller models? And so what I was talking about this morning regarding the small language models, they're nowhere near as powerful as ChatGPT. And I won't lie, I use ChatGPT. But ultimately, perhaps we need to become less, might have to make do with less, because OpenAI might run out of money. And if OpenAI runs out of money, ChatGPT is offline. I mean, really. So, we can think that Microsoft and Apple are just going to be able to like throw cash at the company forever. Maybe not. So, or it's going to become so expensive that you're not going to have enough clients. That's the other option. So frugality, systems thinking.
Yeah. I love your provocation when you just said that, do we need this? Do we need this new innovation? We have to be very aware of about the consequences, that what we've been doing is too much. We've been doing a lot of things that is for nothing, and it's doing bad for us. It's doing really bad. We're becoming unviable society. Like we are inviabilizing. Oh my God, we are
non-viability.
Yeah,
Unsustainable.
Yeah, but
that's unlivable. Unviable is like
yeah. So we are, yeah. So we have to come back to restart, like reboot the system. Let's really only do things that matters, that's going to serve a real purpose, not only to make cash flow. So yeah, without that, we are going to keep trying to find a more sustainable way of doing things that it's not useful, that is for nothing, that is only to give money to a big corporation somewhere else.
Yeah, I like to speak like what serves to life and what do not serve. And about IA, I use ChatGPT as well. It helps me on day by day, and I am looking for another academic opportunities, and they already have like, oh, do you use ChatGPT? How? As a tool that you can use in academic fields, and the energy consumption of IA, and is being brought as the main impact. However, we need to agree that are series of activities that are more degrading to environment than IA. And suddenly, the biggest issue about IA is energy or water. Wait a minute, we are doing like nuclear energy and a lot of stuffs that are more degrading to environmental. So I think we need in that subject. I think we can reach the question about the commons. Okay, I want to. I defend the using of the IA as example for SDG measuring, for ESG measuring, for life purpose. And if we have these two, we can use um, on our purpose. The problem is everything is made to not to serve life, serve money, and all the tools are going on that way. It's not about, in law we say that a lot. It's not about the tool. It's about the intention. You can use the law to be harmful or to be protectful. So it's not the tool. It's our direction, our priorities, and our priority at this point is to only grow, to fill shareholders with money. And I don't think the problem is IA and the energy. I don't know why people are focusing on that.
You'll need the nuclear energy for the AI, is what we're saying. This morning, we were looking at data centers and energy consumptions and how it's basically going to be, we've hit the wall in terms of the amount of energy
Yeah.
that's being produced.
But my question
Mm.
is, but what about Microsoft?
Mm.
And what about all the servers that already they need nuclear energy?
Yeah.
But why only IA is paying that bill?
Realistically, it's also streaming, as we were saying this morning. It's basically streaming, cloud computing, cryptocurrency, and now AI is simply on top of that.
Super.
But it's
machines,
a
right?
bubble that is kind of also creating this demand for creating more and more data centers, and and that's
and
where
electric vehicles and
yes, exactly.
Alexas.
There's a question on Discord from Georgia. That's so one dimension that was hinted in all your talks was the role of collective action for sustainability for technology. So I would love to hear more about that. Collective action.
Um, Climate action is something that we are striving to achieve. We are really not having big progress in this field. Collective action, we use this term when we are talking about that we can make people cooperate and work together to achieve the same end. And we have tradition of collective action in very old organizations, communities. We can talk about colombolas, we can talk about indigenous people. They have some sort of collective action that is very effective, but has a modern or a civilized or something like that society. We don't have many organizations of collective action. I talk about collective action in the perspective of computer society. In the first decade of this century, computer society was moved by the idea of build system that you aggregate a lot of people that you work together to do things. We call that cooperative systems. The first we can say, remember when Wikipedia was created, Yahoo Answers was created, and many other systems like that. In 2029, you have many systems. You can study language. You can cooperate with someone that will help you to study language. The first decade of the century, the system was moved by this idea of make people collaborate to an end. But in the second decade of the century, computer science moved to a new paradigm. Is the big tech paradigm, in which the idea is no more to bring people together to do things, but to have big systems that aggregate a lot of people and make a lot of money to the companies, for example. At that time, we Facebook becomes so big, Twitter becomes so big, and other systems like that, Amazon become so big, and collective action. To talk about that today is something that I'm studying now. Is that we need to return to that model of collaboration. So when we talk about systems like decentralized social network, when we talk about Mastodon or Fediverse, we have new opportunities to bring back that idea of bring people together to collaborate, and not in a system that is owned by a company, but a system that is owned by the community.
What about systems like Mozilla on the open source community that works on like Hugging Face in the AI world?
Can I? But yes, this like GitHub, and lots of communities collaborating actually. But you're right. I mean, there was a change in the paradigm in that sense. But what do you need? I think is some new policies. This is starting from the way we work in academia. How do we how we are recognized by our work? First of all, how the things we produce in academia, you know, you are driven by forces that are not sustainability. And here I'm doing something that I don't get any credit for it. All those reports, people, colleagues of mine, we collaborated, but I don't have any feedback because our sponsors, they're just not looking for that. So the official research agencies were financing research. They should adopt the right policies. So, and to drive people to move them for this kind of, you mentioned about energy consumption. Let's charge more for that as well. You know, people want they want to get more money about that, so they pay more. Let's make it they pay a lot, so proportional of the damage of they do. And of course, this is not the only measure that we can do. We can collaborate. We can cut our consumptions first of all, and we can optimize our design to produce less pollution. So it's a very complex problem. We need to tackle all dimensions of it.
Just to add that open source community, open source software community is a very good example of collective action. It's a very good example, and it's evolved with different ways of doing that, different way of community organizing to solve problems together. And I'm very interested in knowing more about that, but I don't think it is a model to be followed by other initiatives of collective action. We have other possibilities. For example, how it's possible Wikipedia exists today free of charge. Well, how they organize that job, how people contribute to Wikipedia and other system like that. I think we have good model talking about technology. We have good models, and we have to understand how this is evolved. For example, something not so big good to say. Big GitHub just mentioned. GitHub was created as a startup and become so big. Now it's on by Microsoft just brought GitHub. Now it is from Microsoft, and GitHub code that people produce at that platform now is now being used to train an AI model called Copilot from the Microsoft that codes together with you. So people with good intention use that platform to collaborate and to create new solutions to the society. And now their work is being used to create a product that will be sold to everyone by a company.
But then the reality is that pretty much every social network has pretty much turned into a platform for training models. We were all told, hey, you're going to be able to keep in touch with your friends, and so you're sharing pictures, and you're sharing pictures of what you're eating, and basically you're giving away all of this information without thinking that 10, 15 years later, all of this is essentially being scraped in order to create some pretty terrifying tools, Clearview AI probably being the most horrific one of them. So yeah, there from even the open source community has a kind of a flip side where in reality the AI development community shares a lot of its developments in this very open-ended kind of way. Doesn't mean you have the energy and the money to be able to pay for the generation of these models. But they'll publish their algorithms, and what's happening is people can actually take them and then repurpose them for other purposes. So it starts off as really very open, inclusive design goals where we're going to be able to help blind people identify faces when they go into a room, and this is now used to scrape all of the public images from the internet with the URL. And this is essentially turned into a service that is charged about $10,000 a month for police services. And of course, once again, this is an open contempt of European law. They've been fined like millions and millions and millions of dollars in Europe, but they don't care. They're in the U.S. So you know, it's the open source community is a weird kind of it cuts both ways technically in terms of this cooperation. But I see there was a hand that was.
Do we have time? I'm not sure.
One last question.
Okay, it's back about the collective action thing. So sorry, I'm bridging a bit back. Partially, what I was thinking is that usually, sorry, when we talk about the problem of the sustainability of AI or data centers or everything, usually the discussions I hear end up being, and I think I agree with that, it's like policy. We need policy to help us kind of figure this out and then start having top-down ideas. And then I was wondering with the collective action question is, what can be done the other way around? Like, why is it such a difficult topic to not have a model like Wikipedia or not have a model like GitHub or all that? Why is sustainability so difficult to work bottom up when it comes to technology? Yeah, I don't know if you have some ideas about that. It's a hard question. Sorry.
I don't know. It's a very hard question. I think we need. I can say in the specific context of my communities and the people I have contact, and I think that the organization. We have very good example in biology to explain why some organism does not collaborate or collaborate to reach an end. But in humans, between humans, I think that we need some sort in Brazil, in my communities. I think to do that, bottom up, in people realize the problems in working together to solve that problem. You need a level of education. We need a level of conscientization. People be aware exactly what is happening and have the possibility of proposing solutions to that problem. And unfortunately, I don't think we are at that level now. People understand the problem, people solve that problem, they have solution, but solution is very specific to specific case. And in order to collaborate and achieve an end that they can, everyone here agree that the solution will be this thing. It's very difficult to do because what's other thing that she said just a few minutes ago is that people are very concerned about their survival. People are concerned about they need to pay their bills. People are concerned that they need to feed the children. They are concerned that they need school and get together these people and say, we need to think about sustainability. This is something too distant from the realities. That is something difficult to do. But I think we can reach an end. I'm not optimistic. I think we'll do something like that. But it's not easy to do. It's in fact very difficult to do.
And about collaborative actions, and I think we need to agree that the challenges are systematics, but we have also to reinforce the understanding that they are not people but large companies that are causing our problem, and we must demand the creation of public policies that, because I think we are in a place, mostly in Brazil, Northeast, people don't have the 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 awareness about when your house fall down in a rain. This is an environmental question. When you do not have water in your house, this is an environmental question. But I think for us in South America, in a poor region of Brazil, what we see, it's unfair to demand that people who are suffering with insecurity of food, of money, of jobs, they, oh, you have now to fight about the environment. No, we have to put the ones who are causing that to pay, to repair, to be um, charged about that from the governments. Our situation in Brazil, and I think in the global level, we do not have any time to expect that everybody are going to, we are suffering, we are not at this point of proactive action. We are thinking that the world is going to end. How we are going to collective do that job without the government leading the path? Because I am an activist, and I, most of the times I am, oh, I can accept that, but I cannot do anything because we do not have laws to responsibilize that ones who are making that. So I think the collective thinking is mostly in Brazil, that the ones who have the legal obligation of doing, they start to do their job. So it's too critical, but it's in a good way.
There is a great opportunity around communication. Like we are not very good in communicating to society how they can act. We are not very good in sharing informations, and definitely we have not only to give the datas but to engage people. Like we have to market in sustainability in a nice way, in an engaging way, and we have to bring to people the opportunity of knowing that in a way that it's easier. Maybe there is something that you can create things to share this kind of information in an easy way. And also you have to work on the system and the culture view. Like we were educated to think that it's more that will be more successful if we go thinking by ourselves, not collectively. We were educated that this is a more effective way of doing things, but it's a misleading concept. We have to ask ourselves who are interested in saying and convincing us that it's better to go alone than to go together. Why we think that we are less strong if we go together? Of course, it's completely nonsense, but we were educated to be like that, so we have to change that. If we want people and societies and countries and companies to act different, we have to communicate this, recommunicate. We have to change this narrative. Otherwise, people will keep doing the same in the same way that we used to be, because it's really hard to move.
Well, I must agree with you about you cannot charge the people who live in bad conditions to engage change easily because they have immediate needs. And also agree that big business may take their responsibility. And then I agree with you about conscious people mind conscious about this problem. I'd like to add something. Um, I think in the ecological movement, people are doing those things for years.
Mm.
And one thing that's do your local thing, and the global solution will come, will appear.
Think
So
global, act local.
yes, yeah. And then there are many communities and many for small farmers, for example, in Brazil. They don't use many of them are organic. They don't use agrotoxics, and they don't use high technology, and they produce lots of good things there. So we should start looking more at those small business and how to empower them to facilitate their business and to use our technology precisely to help in these production processes, and then and trying to do the other way around instead of trying to convince all the people to be involved in our collective action, and try to see what the people who are doing the real things and they do no harm. We have agroforest initiatives. We have like your company, other companies doing that. Let's look at those people. And just to finish my words, I think I love this collective action we're doing here.
Okay. So we're going to wrap up this talk. One of the things that I wanted to ask regarding actually this famous collective action is one of the first effects that they began to see with LLMs on communities of help, like Stack Overflow, is that there was a net decrease in the amount of traffic on those sites because were essentially going and getting the information directly from the LLMs without actually, asking the community, and therefore they saw like a significant drop. So I think it's like 70 to 25%, depending on which community it was. So LLMs are not necessarily going to help us keep this connectivity. But if we were to kind of think about the lessons that we have, basically don't expect the most disenfranchised to be the ones who have to carry this burden of organization, that we really need to think about, raising this consciousness in order to basically have people who are willing to cooperate, those that can, and those have the money that who should be paying, and basically that there is, also the capability of, instead of looking at my specialty is looking at the bad actors and essentially pointing out the problems, but we can also go the other route and look at who are the good actors, what is essentially being done that's interesting and that needs to be duplicated and promoted. So I want to thank the panel that was here today. We had a wonderful discussion. It also points to the fact that a lot of this information, in order to raise this famous consciousness, can come about through data visualization. It helps make information that's very complex more digestible. It's easier to share. It's easier to understand. We're going to have 2 fabulous workshops starting tomorrow and Wednesday morning that will show us how we can actually work to make these concepts fathomable. And so thank you all very much for being here. And I'd like a big hand of applause for our fabulous panelists. So we see you tomorrow at 9.
Yeah, we finished our first day. It was amazing. It was, I don't know, I expected something, and this broke any expectation. So, but it was only possible because of you. I would also like to thank you again, because this lineup, oh man, they're amazing. So thank you for coming. Sorry. Yeah. Tomorrow morning we'll have Bruna's keynote as well. So please come. And that's it. Thank you very much for coming, and we're done for today.